I was working with a client recently who needed a next step. What a coincidence. I have worked really hard to become the king of the next step. They wanted help to level their team up. Now, I'm not talking about in a vague way, to come train us on leadership and communication, and then we'll all just go back to doing what we've always been doing. They were trying to get their people to actually understand accountability. Can you imagine? We were talking about going beyond just hearing it or agreeing with it. We were trying to find a way to actually use it. We were right in the middle of that conversation, and oh man, I could feel it. There was something in it that hadn't quite come together yet. It wasn't unclear, it just wasn't fully formed. There's a difference between those two. You can be in something where everyone understands what's being said and still not have anything that you can stand on yet. That's the place that we were at. There was a part of me that was saying, stay there. It's not because I didn't have something to give. It's not because I was afraid. I had something to give. Remember, king of the next step, right? I could see the path clearly. I could see how to structure it. I could see how to turn it into something that they could run with and really execute on. That wasn't the problem. The problem is something in me was telling me, don't do that. Now, that didn't come clearly, and it wasn't in a way that gave me an alternative. It was just barely enough to feel it and give me pause. Like, if you finish this, you're going to pay. I didn't listen to that. I went back after that conversation and I built the thing out. 6 months, structure, details, clear progressions, what to do first, what to do next, what to watch for, how to measure it, how to adjust it, everything. Graphics, the works. It was beautiful because king of the next step. If you looked at it on its own, solid. It made sense and it would have worked. I sent it over. They didn't use it. They didn't take the parts that they liked and implemented them. It wasn't that they tried and did it incorrectly. They didn't do anything with it. There wasn't a big conversation about it. They didn't give me any pushback. And I didn't feel like they outright rejected it. I know what that feels like too. It just sat there. And I knew exactly what I wanted to think about that. I wanted to think, well, they didn't execute, or clearly they're horrible at follow through, or they just didn't take it seriously enough. That kind of thinking would have been easy. But something about that thinking didn't quite feel right, because I knew what that plan was. I knew where it came from. I had watched my tired old fingers type it all out. It didn't come from them. It came from me stepping in and finishing something that just wasn't theirs yet. I didn't get in there and sit in it with them. I didn't stay in the part that hadn't formed yet. I pulled them out of it. I cleaned it up. I gave them something that made sense, something that looked like direction and something that they could follow. And then I went back into the mud and I figured out how to make it work on my own. Here's the kicker for the whole thing. I thought my brilliant next step was saving them from being in the discomfort. The reality was they never actually left the discomfort. And that's what took longer to admit than I want to say. Because nothing about what I gave them was wrong. It was good. It was thoughtful. I could highlight all of the years of experience that it was built with. It just didn't belong to them. And I have done that more than once. There are moments where something hasn't come together yet. And I can feel it. It's easy for me to identify. I can see where it's going. I can see how to shape it. That's a real skill. And listen, I have worked really, really hard to hone that skill. And there are times when stepping in like that changes everything. It helps people move. It gives them clarity that they didn't have before. That part, it's real. What I hadn't stayed with long enough was what happens after. Because when you do that, the clarity stays connected to where it came from. It doesn't fully transfer. Yeah, for sure, it holds while the clarity point is close to it. While the conversation's fresh, while it's being reinforced effectively. And then something changes. And it's not with bells and whistles or blaring alarms. That would be easy if it was. But it changes just enough. And then the same kind of moment shows up again. And they reach out. For me, the king of the next step. It's not really because they don't care. And it's not really because they can't do it on their own. It's because it never actually moved into them. I could see that in that situation. And that was on me. And it was really hard to sit with. Because it meant that what I did didn't just not work. It created something that looked like progress and left the same gap untouched. That's a different kind of failure. It doesn't show up right away. And it doesn't interrupt anything. It just comes back later. And I've seen that pattern in a lot of places. It's very easy for people to reach for the next version of what worked before. Maybe it's something more refined, more complete, more structured, or maybe it's just the same old next step with the newest buzzwords and the current graphics. Look, that makes sense. I get it. Because on the surface, it totally works. It creates movement. It creates clarity. And it gives something most people really want. Something to hold on to. There's no shortage of that in the world right now. You can go find direction instantly. You can find structure. You can find someone who will step in and shape it with you, or more accurately, for you. But it's the same thing. And one thing we know for sure, the river's going to change, right? You can move to something that already has shape, something that doesn't feel like dependency. It feels like using what's available. Smart, right? Feels like we're being efficient. I've done that a lot. I've built that a lot, and it works. That's what makes this hard for me, because nothing about it looks wrong until you circle back into a moment that hasn't formed yet. And you can feel the same thing again. That pull to reach for something, to finish it, to finally move past it. Maybe it's to grow or to step in and do that for someone else. That's noble. But that's where I've been paying attention. Because that's the part that shows up that hasn't been built. The part that has to stand where there isn't anything to reach for. That doesn't get built through explanation. It doesn't get built through structure. It doesn't get built through being given something that already makes sense. It gets built in that space. The one that doesn't feel efficient. The one that doesn't feel clear. The one that might not look like progress when you're in the middle of it. That's the space that I skipped in that conversation. That's the space that I've skipped hundreds of times before. Because I like being the king of the next step. But that's the part I can't ignore now. Because once you see it, you can still do the same things. You can still build the plan and still give direction. For maybe the first time, you can still help people move in the right way. Everything can still work. But you know what it leaves untouched? That changes how you sit in it. Not in a way that gives you a clean answer. I wish the answers were clean, but sometimes they're not. It happens in a way that doesn't let you pretend that it's complete anymore. There are moments now where I can feel it happening again. Something isn't fully there yet. I can see exactly how to bring it together. That hasn't changed. I waited way too long for it to change that fast. What's changed is what I do with it, or more accurately, what I try not to do. Listen, I don't get this right every time. There are still moments where I step in too early, where I finish something that wasn't mine to finish, where I do too much, and I can feel it right after. Not because anything breaks. It's because I know exactly what I just took back from them. Still moves, still creates some short-term clarity. At the same time, I know I shortened something that needed more space. That's not a clean adjustment. There isn't a clear line where you just do it right from that point forward. It's something that you have to stay aware of in real time. And most of the time, that awareness shows up right at the moment where it would be easier to just ignore it. The king is dead. I can't wait to see what the new king looks like.